Only one place to start, really, Mo Salah. What did we make of Mo Salah's day, Jackie, at Anfield yesterday? The Sunday Telegraph, Salah's farewell for now.
Yep, for now. We don't know. I don't think the manager knows. I can understand the headlines saying that he will be back. The answer that Slot gave was that, well, he's a Liverpool player. So I think he deserves a huge amount of credit, Slot, for all this, because he clearly won't have enjoyed or liked what happened. And he's had to show a lot of leadership by calming it down. I think the fans deserve credit as well for not particularly taking one side or another, certainly not turning against the manager. And he's calmed it down to the extent that he was capable of coming on yesterday, receiving warm applause from the supporters, having an impact, of course, with his corner for Ekitike's second goal, and leaving things pretty calm for Salah to then go to the Africa Cup of Nations. And then if a deal can be done with, say, Saudi Arabia and he goes, then he's had his moment of farewell. And if he doesn't, he's left the door open for him to come back and resume. So I think Slot's handled it really well. Credit to the supporters as well. But I was watching this channel yesterday when Salah walked into the stadium, and the guys, Paul Merson, etc., was having a great ding-dong with Clinton Morrison about how he walked in as if he'd just been slapped around the chops with a wet fish, and he wasn't very happy with life. And they were arguing about his demeanour, and really, is this the demeanour of somebody who wants to be here? And, OK, credit to him for coming on and having an impact. But his demeanour was very much in question ahead of that game. I don't know if you get to see that clip again or if it'll be played again today.
Well, that is the question.
It wasn't very positive.
Yeah, Mr. Sam Dean, the Sunday Times. Is this goodbye? Is this goodbye, Sam? Do you think he'll feature in a Liverpool shirt again?
My instinct and feeling is that this is goodbye now. And I think that's partly because him playing yesterday, or at least being in the squad and then coming off the bench, was a really sensible outcome that kind of suited all parties, because Slot needed him, partly because of injuries in attack and also because the form has been so bad in the league. He needed Salah, and Salah needed to say goodbye, as he said he wanted to last week. If Salah didn't get that chance, it would have been him. He would have gone out in a very sort of disgraced way, wouldn't he, if he is to leave? So this felt to me like a very sensible short-term plaster over the problem, but I really would be quite surprised now if Slot doesn't long-term, or the club don't long-term kind of lay down the law for what Salah did. And I look back at sort of my own journalistic, sort of what I've covered in the last few years, and I remember at Arsenal, Mikel Arteta and Mesut Ozil and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and when these players challenge managers, generally it doesn't repair itself. You have to find a solution with one of them goes. And I think Salah made his play, and it felt to me like he was trying to get Slot sacked when he spoke after Leeds. Obviously, I think he's realised that's not going to happen. I still think a departure is the most likely outcome, and yesterday was a short-term fix to make everyone happy for a day or two before the bigger issue gets resolved next month.
I think the big question, which we don't know the answer to at this point, is it's the other side of the market, right? It's who is willing to buy out his big Liverpool contract. Is that going to be a team in Saudi Arabia in the January transfer window? I'm sure that if such a team were to come through with a lot of money on the table, it would make sense for everyone for him to go. I think, even putting aside his comments after the Leeds game, the fact is he hasn't started Liverpool's last 5 games, and Liverpool haven't lost any of those 5. Whereas their 3 games before then, which Salah all started, they lost all of them. So they not only are they, I think, a better team right now without him, but certainly in terms of their future planning for next season and beyond, I don't think he is part of those plans, and I think they whereas the people who we do know are part of the plans are Ekitike, Wirtz and Isak. Like, they're the guys who really need to make a success of this season. And therefore, I think that if somebody comes to the table with proper money for Salah in January, it would be very surprising if Liverpool were to try and keep hold of him for the rest of this season or beyond that.
But Slot is defiant. You know, the Mail reporting and going with the headline, Mo will be back. Slot expects Salah to return after international duty.
Is that not just from his answer when he's asked, will he be back? He's not going to say, well, no, because no deal has been done for him to go to Saudi Arabia or anywhere else. But the way he said it on the broadcast interview I saw was when he was asked, well, will he be back? And he said, well, he's a Liverpool player, so yes, he'll be back. That's not emphatic, is it? That's more a case of that's what he has to say. And that's why I think he's handled it so well, because it's not just about him and his relationship with a player who he's probably privately fuming about. He has to manage the situation because the guy signed a 2-year contract worth, what, about 400 grand a week? Something. And he said in April when he signed it, it was partly because of the manager and the fantastic relationship he has with him, and his wife and 2 daughters are so happy on Merseyside. He signed that, but his stats alone this season, from the first 12 games of the Premier League season that he started, 4 goals and 2 assists.
I think the reason why he wasn't in Milan was his interview, and the question is always, and everybody has a different opinion about that, should he be once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 4 months, 12 years? Every manager makes different decisions in that, but he wasn't involved in the game against Milan, and I spoke to him yesterday, and I think, as I usually never say anything about where we talk about, I'm not going to make an exception now, but I think actions speak louder than what has been said. He was in the squad again, and when I had to make my first substitutions, I brought him in, and he performed as I think every fan, including me, would like him to perform today.
Son?
Is he coming back? Was that his last game? It looked like it might be as he walked around the pitch.
I think he wasn't the only player who walked around the pitch thanking the fans, because the fans deserved a thank you from us. I think our players worked incredibly hard today to keep a clean sheet, and for the first time in weeks, maybe I should say months, we had a little bit of luck with that as well. Also a little bit of luck. I think we did a lot of things well, but we also had a little bit of luck. We've had games where we not conceded a chance, but conceded 3 goals. But today we definitely did concede chances, but they didn't go in. Mo is going to go to the AFCON now. Hope he's going to do very well. And in the meantime, we have to play here without him, with not that many players available at the moment. But the good thing is we play Saturday and then a week in between and then again Saturday. So yeah, that's the situation.
And in the first 12 Premier League games of last season, 10 goals and 6 assists. That's 10 more goal involvements he had last season from the same number of games that he started. He's not been the same positive influence he was last season. He cannot demand to start games. And what's best for Liverpool is the most important thing here. And so that's why I agree with you guys about him potentially moving on in January. But I think it's been handled well by Slot.
What fascinates me about this story, it has been massively divisive in terms of, you know, you mentioned Paul Merson, but Paul Merson sort of sticking up for Mo Salah's side of things. Jamie Carragher, the complete opposite. What have you made, Sam, of the way that Salah in particular has gone about dealing with the situation in the build-up to the Brighton game?
Yeah, well, so much was made of that contract he signed and how people really kind of felt like it should be a reward for his performances last season. But contracts aren't a reward, they're a projection of future performance. And the argument that he deserved a new deal because of what he did in the past, for me, never really cut it. And the fact that it's 6 months down the line and he's now struggling, I think kind of proves why there might have been some reservations within Liverpool, given his age. And we know, obviously he's a great player, no one's doubting that, but we know that players in that position especially can drop off quite quickly. And it looks to me this season that he's lost a lot of the form and sharpness that defined the previous year for Liverpool. And I think now, if it sounds crazy to say, you can't imagine saying this 6 months ago, but if you lined up 100 Liverpool fans and said, would you be happy for Salah to leave and Liverpool to buy Antoine Semenyo, for example, which I think is entirely possible in January.
Who has the release clause of 65 million?
It seems like it's there to be done if Liverpool want to do it. If you ask Liverpool fans, would you want that now? I think the majority would say yes, get rid of Salah, which is extraordinary. You think about what he did last year, but that's how quickly football moves.
I think that's a little bit unfair on Salah in the sense that the Liverpool team last season was basically, it was like a platform which was built for Salah to be brilliant. Like, Salah was the best player, and they had, like, everything that they did was geared around getting him to maximise his talents. In that sense, it reminded me a little bit of the Argentina team with Lionel Messi at the heart of it, and you've got everybody is there. Everybody is there to do a job to help the best player play his best. But there's been so much change this season, over the summer, and they've brought in all these new guys. Suddenly, that platform doesn't exist anymore. They don't have Alexander-Arnold, they don't have Diaz, they don't have Nunes, they don't have Jota under tragic different circumstances. And they've suddenly got these 3 new signings in, all of whom want to be the main man, right? Like, they've spent lots of money on these guys, and they want to be the ones who are getting the goals and assists on the pitch. And all of a sudden, even though Salah has got this fantastic big new contract, his status at the team and his importance in the team has actually really changed. And I just wonder if it's that change in status that he finds it really hard to adjust to, rather than simply like a footballing reason why he's playing worse.
Would that not be a failing on his part, though, as a leader of the squad, as someone who gets paid a reported £25 million a year? his job, surely, at his age as well, is to adapt to the changing world at Liverpool and to evolve with the team and the squad.
I would say it's even more of a failing of the people who run Liverpool, in the sense that at the same time, they both gave him this fantastic big new contract and also transformed his status within the group. It strikes me as a very, very muddled planning to end up in that position.
In fairness to them as well, though, do you remember at the time, I mean, he doesn't give many interviews, does he? But when he does, it's because he's got a point to make about himself, and he wanted that new contract, and he came out in a rare interview and said, no, the club haven't sorted a contract with me. There was a huge amount of pressure from the fans, and as we know, it's one of the most passionate fan bases. I'm certainly not blaming the fans for this, but you just remember at the time, what he had done led to the theory that he was worth shelling out that 2-year contract for a player approaching his mid-30s, which was a lot of money. Doesn't mean to say they're right, but in fairness to the hierarchy at Liverpool, there was a huge amount of pressure from everybody. He deserves this, he's the main man, X, Y and Z. So had they not done that and just say this season hadn't started so well, the amount of pressure on them and on Slot would have been almost unbearable, saying, well, why on earth didn't you give Salah that contract that he deserved?
And also, having that contract at least protects his value. If he does go in January, you'd assume they'd get a decent transfer fee for him. If he went in the summer, they would have got nothing. So, yes, it's cost them 6 months' wages, but I don't think they'll regret giving him that contract in that sense.
Can you guys see Salah accepting in any capacity, sitting on the bench? Because when you, I mean, Jack's already nodding his head to say no. But do you know what I mean? Going forward, that conversation would have had to involve, where do you see me over these next 20-odd Premier League games and playing in the Champions League? Is this going to be more common, me sitting around on the bench? Whereas he, essentially what I'm trying to say is, are we just fast-forwarding the situation which was going to play out in the summer to the January transfer window? You know, was he always going to go in the summer, even though he's got this 2-year contract? And now, actually, it might be, as you said, Jack, in the best for all parties, that he goes to Saudi in the summer. They get a Semenyo or someone like that in Jack.
Well, I think he's made it. He could not have made it any clearer that he does not want to sit on the bench and does not think it's appropriate for him to sit on the bench. I just think that puts Liverpool in a difficult position, right? Because any club who's trying to move on a very, very big name player often runs into these problems. It was the same it's kind of similar when Cristiano Ronaldo went back to Manchester United. And then as soon as Ten Hag decided that I'm not really having him, it became like the dominant story at Manchester United, which dominated everything they did for 6 or 12 months before he finally left. And these situations are very hard. And that's why, I do have a lot of sympathy with Salah, with Slot, even to an extent with the Liverpool hierarchy, because I accept Jackie's point that it would have been very politically difficult for them not to give him a contract after all those goals and the Premier League title and everything last season. So these things are very hard to manage, but my sense is it's probably best for Liverpool to grasp the nettle in January if they can and move him on and then get on with the new era.
Will Saudi be his only option, do you think? We're only talking about Saudi. Will there not be other European major clubs who would come in for him, even in January?
Wow, for that amount of money?
I think at those wages, it feels to me like Saudi's the only place. But that's not to say that Salah wouldn't be happy taking a pay cut to play for somewhere else. I think, there'll be loads of European clubs who want Salah. I just don't think there'll be loads of European clubs who want Salah at his current salary level. So that might require him to take a cut. But for me, Saudi seems inevitable.
So come on, look, down the line. Do we see him in a Liverpool shirt again, Jackie?
No, but it does depend very much on the offer. You can't just say, well, he's going to go. There has to be the right deal in place. But just one final point on it. What about professionalism? You're signing a player on 2-year contract on around £400,000 a week or whatever. Yes, he's been fantastic for the...
Is that it now? Are you satisfied that issues are resolved, or is there still stuff to resolve over the next month?
No, for me, there's no issue to resolve. For me, he's now the same as any other player. You talk to your players if you're happy or unhappy with things, but there's nothing for me to talk about after what happened against Leeds after the game.